I've seen those guys. Yeah.
Kind of like a very academic style painter.
Yeah, I saw it first because he did a video where he was talking about Sergeant Foster.
All right, so beautiful day out in Placerita Canyon. The weather is a little bit unpredictable. Clouds are coming and going, wind is coming and going, but I'm out here with Ariah, and we're gonna do a painting of this creek here. Let me show you what we're thinking. This is the scene I'm gonna be working with. Obviously, I will be moving some things around, but I'm gonna try to get a convincing feeling of transparency in the water. I've got my usual limited palette of colors, and I'll be painting on a 16 by 20 inch panel. All right, so you're gonna be doing several 8 by 10s, is that right?
Hopefully.
So you got an 8 by 10 inch panel.
I'm gonna start by doing this little river scene, getting some of the gray rocks and hopefully a little bit of the glare.
All right, so I've thinned some burnt sienna with some odorless mineral spirits. Just putting down some quick lines here. This here is the creek, and it kind of wraps around and goes out of sight over here. And then on this bank, there's a sycamore tree here. And then on this bank, another sycamore. And in the distance, there's a mountain, but I'm gonna make the mountain a little bit smaller than it is in reality so that I can see bits of sky through the top parts of the trees. But there are the big shapes. Are you going in with shapes again on this one, or do you have like kind of an idea, like a sketch idea?
Yeah, I just wanted the sort of the course of the river to look a little bit natural, so I didn't want to do a drawing, and plus since it's so small, I was afraid of it getting too crowded if I had done a drawing, so I'm going to try to keep it
Simple.
open and loose, simple, yeah.
I've got a number 8 natural bristle flat here, and I'm starting with a transparent purple mix. It's kind of my go-to dark mixture, and it's ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. And I vary the mixture depending on how I want to lean the color of the purple. Sometimes I want it to lean more towards red, and sometimes more towards blue. And here I'm going more towards blue. And I'm just squinting at the scene to simplify the shapes, and starting with the darkest darks. The trees here are casting a shadow on the creek, something like that. And there's some tall grass on the shoreline here that I'm going to include. It'll help hopefully to create a sense of depth. And there's some trees in the background here that are pretty dark in value. I probably will be lightening them up, but right now I'm mostly just looking for an interesting light and dark pattern. And there's a tree casting a shadow coming down into the creek over here as well. All right, next I'm going to mix up a color for the creek. I've mixed up sort of a yellow ochre color here using burnt sienna, cadmium yellow medium, titanium white, and a touch of ultramarine blue. Again, squinting at the scene to simplify the shapes. And I'm leaving unpainted areas where there are rocks. And I'm not trying to duplicate what I'm seeing exactly. Just looking for an interesting pattern here. And at the moment I've got direct light on my panel, which is not ideal, but as soon as I get the panel covered, you know, and the scrub in is finished, then I will turn my easel so that the painting is in the shade, hopefully. Ariah's working fast here. Yeah, that's looking good.
I don't want to focus on any one area for too long. I just want to kind of work around it to get it filled in.
Do you have an idea of like a focal point or no?
Yeah, I want to really draw the eye to this stream here. That's why I want the most color to be, and then some of the reflection, but It's really hard to get the dark of the rocks underwater along with that light flowing over them, so
For sure.
we'll see.
There's quite a bit of sparkle on the water. Are you going to add some of that?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
no?
I'm gonna try, yeah.
I've got a green mixture here, sort of a mid-tone value. I use phthalo blue and cadmium yellow medium, and a touch of cadmium yellow lemon, indicating some of the foliage of the trees. And I want to have sky holes through the trees, so I'm leaving little unpainted areas. Adding a bit of cadmium yellow medium and some titanium white. This tree here has some warmer foliage on it. And there's some warmer green right here. Little touches of it in this area as well.
It's harder than I thought.
Those small panels are hard.
It's not even that, it's just that there's not a lot of contrast. The only thing that's like backlit are the rocks, and everything else is really sort of a lighter mid-tone.
And the rocks are really small,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and kind of until I get the highlight on each one of these little rocks, everything is sort of blending together in my canvas, but we'll see.
And some lighter green over here. And maybe I'll lighten this green up too. Does that look like it's working, Ariah?
Yeah, it reads really well.
Yes, I've decided to go with a kind of a pinkish tone for the distant mountains because they are in sunlight. They're actually quite dark in value. I wanted to lighten the value to push them back, and yeah, I think that's going to work. All right, next I'm going to mix up a color for the sky, and I'm paying attention to values here. The rocks in the foreground are slightly lighter in value than the sky. Oftentimes you'll hear people say that the sky is always the lightest part of your painting. It's always going to be the lightest part of your painting, but I have not found that to be true, especially when painting the ocean. The white water is often the lightest value in the painting. And then in this case as well, when there's these bright rocks in the foreground, they are the lightest value, and the sky is slightly darker. Having a darker sky is kind of nice because it'll allow me to get some saturation. Now for the sand along the shore here. And the sand over here is in shadow, so I'm going to wait on that. And there's a bit of sand out here on this distant bit of riverbank. Alright, so I've got the panel covered. I stepped back about 10 feet and I realized the sky value is way too dark. Not a problem, it'll be easy to lighten it up. But there is the basic composition. Alright, I've turned my panel so that it is no longer in direct sunlight, and I'm now adjusting the value of the sky. And I'm using thick paint, and I think from this point on I am going to stop using medium. I have been using Gamblit's Neo McGilp up to this point, but now I want to start going in with thicker paint, using the negative dark shapes of the trees here to carve out the light portions of these sycamores. I'm having fun working into the shapes that I've established here, and I am going to try to build up the rest of this painting just using thick intentional strokes, but I am paying attention to the overall design, of course, as usual. Now putting in the shadow portion of some of these rocks. All right, so here's what I finished up with. This painting took about 2.5 hours to complete. It was finished on site. My goals with this painting were same as usual, to have a strong composition, a convincing feeling of light, but I also wanted to create a convincing feeling of transparency in the water, in particular in the foreground. This is a subject I've tried to paint before with varying degrees of success. I do feel like this worked out pretty well. The water was shallow, so you could see through to the bottom. There are some submerged light colored rocks, but also darker patches, which I think were bits of fallen leaves. So you can see some of the darker bits over here, and then some lighter suggested submerged rocks. My approach to creating a feeling of transparency in water is to approximate a general color and value, and then to go into that color with delicate value shifts and also delicate temperature shifts. Both Ariah and I really struggled to come up with a composition that we were happy with. In fact, Ariah tried 2 different 8x10 panels and was unhappy with both of them. I'm not crazy about the composition, but I do feel like I'm getting a better idea of how to compose in that location. So we're both looking forward to returning before the water dries up. In the summertime, the creek will completely dry. So anyway, we plan to head back there hopefully sometime soon. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. It's a Patreon support that helps keep me making these videos, and it's much appreciated. I've also got a PayPal tip jar down below, and I will put a link to Ariah's Instagram down below as well, so check it out. Other than that, stay creative. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm going to try to get a convincing feeling of transparency in the water. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I think so.